Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Shinobird Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile for post-Age of Overlord. We got the new level 4 ritual monsters for the Shinobird deck in the latest Yu-Gi-Oh main booster set. The whole deck focuses on the way spirit monsters work with a bounce back to hand playstyle, also being able to set up Shinobird tokens on the field to use for the tribute of our many different ritual monsters, having a new search field spell as well. Definitely does help with the overall setup of the many different ritual monsters that we have, including the Shinobird and Shinobaroness level 4 monsters. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the ritual monsters, we're still running 2 copies of the original Shinobird Peacock. You can ritual summon this card with Shinobird's Calling. Must be ritual summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways. If this card is ritual summoned, you can return up to 3 monsters your opponent controls to the hand. Then you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower spirit monster from your hand, ignoring its summoning conditions. Once per turn during the end phase, if it was special summoned this turn, return it to the hand. And if you do special summon 2 Shinobird tokens onto the field that are level 4 with 1500 attack and 1500 defense. So these tokens could particularly be used for the ritual summon again, but Peacock having the bounce power that it has of our opponent's monsters, but also being able to set up other spirit monsters, means that we can run a wide variety of other spirit monsters in the deck to potentially summon out onto the field and gain different monster effects when we summon those spirit monsters out. We're also running the 1 copy of the Shinobaroness Peacock. You can ritual summon this card with Shinobird's Calling. Must be ritual summoned, cannot be special summoned by other ways. If it's ritual summoned, you can shuffle up to 3 spell and traps your opponent controls into the deck. Then you can special summon 1 level 4 lower spirit monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. And once per turn, you can, during the end phase, special summon this card when it was returned to the hand, and special summon 2 Shinobird tokens onto the field. So very similar to Peacock, just with the spell and trap situation instead of the bouncing of monsters back to your opponent's hand, just getting rid of the back row that your opponent may have set up on the field thanks to this card. And then for the lower level Shinobird monsters, we are running the 2 copies of Shinobird Shade Peacock. You can ritual summon this card with Shinobird's Calling. This card's name becomes Shinobird Peacock while in the hand or on the field. You can tribute this ritual summon card to add 1 spirit monster and 1 ritual spell from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Shinobird Shade Peacock once per turn, and once per turn during the standby phase of the next turn. After this card was banished, you can special summon this banished card, and once per turn during the end phase, if this card was special summoned during this turn, return it to the hand. So just a good way to make use of the level 4 monster, having the bounce back power, and then also just being able to special summon back as well. Adding the ritual spell and another spirit monster gives you search power as well off of this card for a normal summon spirit monster for you to then summon out onto the field for the card. And being used with Shinobird's Calling, as all the other ritual monsters are in this deck, is just an added bonus of consistency for being able to search it out with other cards like Pre-Preparation of Rites. And also 2 copies of the new Shinobaroness Shade Peacock. You can ritual summon this card also with Shinobird's Calling. Its name becomes Shinobaroness Peacock while in the hand or on the field. If this card is ritual summoned, you can add 1 spell or trap from your deck to your hand that mentions the spirit monster and its text. You can only use the effect of Shinobaroness Shade Peacock once per turn, and once per turn during the standby phase of the next turn after this card was banished, special summon this banished card, and once per turn during the end phase if this card was special summoned, return it to the hand. So just having the return to hand option just like all the other cards for spirit monsters, but also giving you the spell and trap that mentions spirit monster and its text. It gives us more of a search option for a particular card we may want to make use of for our spirit monsters, including cards like Shinobird Power Spot, or even our option to then add to our hand the new play spell of the Stars Align Above the Shrine. For some of the other spirit monsters that we run on the deck, 3 copies of our Tama. It cannot be special summoned once per turn. During the end phase, if this card was normal summon or flip face up, return this card to the hand. And when it's normal summon or flip face up, you can add 1 spirit monster from your deck to your hand, except for our Tama. Our Tama, since it can just add a spirit monster, can search out any of the ritual monsters that we run in the deck to begin with. So think of it as just another Manju in the deck as a normal summon card, for the fact that you can also special summon it, ignoring its summoning conditions off of Shinobird means that you just have an option to search it out onto the field as well, but you have to use it to be normal summon to gain that additional search. So there are some other spirit monsters that we can summon out onto the field as better targets for our Shinobird. We also run the 1 copy of Sakitama for this card. Once per turn during the end phase, if it was normal summon or flip face up, return this card to the hand. You can only use each of the following effects of Sakitama once per turn. You can reveal this card in your hand. Immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon 1 spirit monster from your hand. If this card's tributed, you can target 1 spirit monster in your graveyard and add to your hand. More of a recycle power thanks to this card being used as the tribute for one of our other spirit monsters that we run the deck, meeting the exact level requirements for those cards as well, to then just add back cards from our graveyard to our hand. And then also the 1 copy of Yatagarasu for the returning of a card from your opponent's hand, making it so they have to skip their draw phase during this next turn when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent. So just another one you can summon out into the field, ignoring the summoning conditions with Shinobird. And then if you can inflict damage to your opponent, you can create sort of a lock against them. And also the 1 copy of Amano Iwado, definitely one of the better cards just to shut down your opponent's cards as well. Once per turn during the end phase, be having the bounce effect as well. And if this card was normal or flip face up this turn, return this card to the hand. So depending on the spirit monster you may want to summon out, ignoring their summoning conditions, you can also use Shinobird Peacock for the special summon play of being able to special summon 1 level 4 or lower spirit monster from your hand, meaning you can also go for the level 4 ritual monsters to then summon out onto the field using that card. We're also running the 3 copies of Manju the 10,000 Hands just as an additional search for any of the ritual monsters or the ritual spells to then add to our hand thanks to this card. And then also for the other main deck monsters, 2 copies of Incantation Candela, the 1 copy of Talismandra, along with the 1 copy of Bookstone and the 1 Pencil Plume, just for more search and special summon resources to use for the tribute of our own ritual monsters onto the field using these monsters in any way you need, depending on the reveal, adding back from the graveyard or just adding back or special summoning from the deck to then add cards from the deck to your hand. For these spells, we're running 3 of the new Stars Align Above the Shrine. This field spell, once per turn, you can ritual summon 1 wind ritual monster from your deck by attributing spirit monsters and or Shinobird tokens from your field whose total levels equal or exceed the ritual monster's level. Twice per turn, if a face-up wind monster you control is returned to your hand except during the damage step, you can activate one of these effects. You can add 1 of your spirit monsters or ritual spells that is banished during the graveyard to the hand, or set 1 Stars Align across the Milky Way directly from your deck. So that is the card that is a trap that we received from the Darkwing Blast booster set. Just another good option as a card to just potentially set from our deck using this card, but also being able to add back any of our banished or graveyard spirit monsters means we just get more fodder for the ritual summons that we may want to do also. And for the fact that all the Shinobird monsters are wind monsters makes them all viable targets as long as we have the cards to tribute being for our ritual wind monsters from our spirit monsters and our Shinobird tokens on our field. Most of the time you'll use the Shinobird tokens since the spirit monsters will just be returned back to the hand at the end of the turn, but you can always use the ones that you just summoned out for the normal summon also. For our ritual spell, we're running 2 copies of Shinobird's Calling. This is used to ritual summon Shinobaroness Peacock or Shinobird Peacock. You must also tribute monsters from your hand and field and or banish spirit monsters from your graveyard whose total levels equal or exceed the level of the ritual monster. The banish from the graveyard helps because then we also have, once again, the recycle with Stars Align Above the Shrine, but also for the fact that this card is meant to summon out Shinobaroness or Shinobird Peacock, but the new level 4 monsters are regarded as their names as well while in the hand. So you have this play to summon them out using this ritual spell, which can be easily searched with a good amount of other cards also. Also 2 copies of Shinobird Power Spot for more of the search. Spirit monsters you control gain 500 attack and defense. If a face-up wind monster you control returns to your hand, except during the damage step, you can add 1 spirit monster or ritual spell card from your deck to your hand. You can use this effect of Shinobird Power Spot once per turn, so search power for a spirit monster or the spell, but the boost in power to your spirit monsters also means it may be a little more difficult for the option of your opponent not being able to activate their monster effects while you have cards like Amano Iwado on the field, and this card has 2400 attack thanks to this continuous spell. And then also the 3 copies of Pre-Preparation of Rites. You just add a ritual spell from your deck to your hand and add 1 ritual monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand whose name is listed on that ritual spell. So with this, you have both the options for both Shinobird and Shinobird Peacock, with them both being on the name of the ritual spell to add off of this card, and more add back power for the new level 4 rituals with Preparation of Rites, just being able to add a level 7 or lower ritual monster from your deck. So then you can add the ritual spell from your graveyard. So if you use the ritual spell beforehand, having more recycle power from the graveyard back to your hand with this card also, while adding the level 4 ritual monsters with this card. And then also 2 copies of Pot of Prosperity for more search power. We run a good amount of generic cards in the extra deck just because the main focus with this deck are the good amount of ritual plays we can go for, and then the 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. If our opponent tries to stop any of our searches with any of their hand traps, we at least have a response to them with this spell also. And then for the traps, the 1 copy of Shinobird Salvation and the 1 copy of Stars Align across the Milky Way. The Stars Align can be set up with our field spell, and Shinobird Salvation, if a face-up spirit monster you control returns to your hand while this card's face-up, except during the damage step, you can target a card your opponent controls and destroy it. And you can target 1 card your opponent controls, destroy it, and when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can banish 1 spirit monster from your graveyard to negate the attack. So more of a protection for your cards on the field, or just stopping battle damage in general. And then the Stars Align across the Milky Way, giving you the option to reveal a ritual monster in your hand to add 1 with the same level but different name. So depending on the Shinobird monster you have, you'll just be able to add the respected one, or vice versa, depending on which one is in your hand. For the extra deck, we are running for the Link monsters, the 1 copy of Dynamondo. For the ritual summon, being able to target 1 card on the field and 1 ritual monster in your graveyard, shuffling both into the deck, so recycle power with those cards. The 1 Reprodocus for the option to change the monsters it points to into spirit monsters as well. 1 Donner Dagger for hire, for the use with cards like Manju, and then our other spirit monsters, and then also the 1 Cross Sheep, the 1 Win the Wind Charmer, and the 1 Nightmare Phoenix, along with some of the other Link monsters like Barricade Board Blocker, IP Masquerena, Nightmare Unicorn, and the Access Code Talker for the rest of the lineup. Like I said, a pretty generic lineup for most of it. And for the Xyz monsters, the 1 copy of Gaga Cowboy, the 1 Baguska, the 1 Abyss Dweller, the 1 number 38 Hope Harbinger, and the 1 Divine Arsenal Zeus for more of the options you can go into, especially with all the level 4 ritual monsters we now have for the deck as well. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, having the option with the new Stars Align above the Shrine to tribute and summon out our monsters to then be able to ritual summon 1 win ritual monster from our deck by tributing those spirit monsters means that if you just have the 1 spirit monster on the field for that play, you could just normal summon out cards like your Aratama to the field and then use the effect of Aratama to add a spirit monster from your deck to your hand. So then you can add 1 of the other cards like our main go-to boss monsters like Shinobird and Peacock, using Stars Align above the Shrine, tributing a spirit monster on the field whose total levels equal or exceed the ritual monster we want to go into. Then we can summon out our Shinobird Peacock onto the field as well, and then this card's name becomes Shinobird Peacock while on the field as well. And when a monster is returned to your hand, so you'll get the bounce at the end of the turn for this card, you can activate the additional effect of adding 1 spirit monster that is banished from your graveyard to your hand. So you can add the Aratama back to your hand, or set 1 Stars Align across the Milky Way, which is the trap we mentioned before as well. But you also have the effect beforehand of Shinobird Shade Peacock, of when this card, you contribute this ritual summon card to add 1 spirit monster and 1 ritual spell from your deck to your hand. So then you have the option to tribute this card to add the spirit monster and the ritual spell. So you also have the Shinobird Peacock that you added off of the Aratama that you normal summoned, along with the additional search of your ritual monster and the spell, then giving you the total number of monsters needed to activate your ritual spell, tributing the monster you needed, which since you added both to your hand, depending on if you need to get rid of your opponent's back row or their monsters, you can tribute the respected monster, summoning out that additional monster onto the field, having the bounce back power for those cards, and then having the return card to the hand, giving you the 2 Shinobird tokens onto the field, and then, as I said before, activating the Stars Align above the Shrine to set the trap from your deck to your field, and then adding back the spirit monster, which you can add the Aratama to then have a normal summon and search the next turn also. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Like I said, I'm very happy with the new support. It definitely does help just having some lower level ritual monsters to be able to summon out with the Shino Baroness and Shino Baron monsters added to the lineup for easier summons, especially with the new field spell. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Twig out.